All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Chakodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And, pretty much going to go right into it. As you can see in the title, it's all coming together. Brothers should be joining shortly, so, it's not just me out here. but, um, but yeah, it's all coming together now. On my way here, I was watching, a video. I actually did a short stream on it, dealing with the whole new covenant situation where, you have the IUIC now saying that we're already in the new covenant, and, that would, along with everything else, really according to the words written in the scriptures, just as the Lord said, by way of the different prophets, the different men of the Lord, what happened in these last days is exactly what he is doing, right? The Lord is setting up all the pieces, is putting everything into place to fulfill these prophecies, all right? Because, for a period of time, as we've been saying, you have some people that come in and they say, oh, I don't see why there's such a, a divide, or why can't everybody just come together and be unified and one, y'all all Israelites, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, we make it clear that, look, it's about the doctrine. It's about the purity of the doctrine. So if you're teaching something else, then you're going off. And we've pointed out time and time and time again what it is that certain individuals and certain groups are teaching incorrectly. Okay? And now what the Lord is doing is he's starting to show why it is that he didn't bring us all together into one lump. As the scriptures say, a little leaven leaveneth the whole lump. So if there's leaven in one particular area, the Lord is not going to lump us all in there and try to have that leaven spread. Okay? You have those, the true prophets that are teaching the correct way, and then you have the others that are not. But at the end of the day, everybody has been set up to do, everything according to the Lord's will. As a matter of fact, let me start off there. And I got a precept here that I want to go into. Because, when you really think about it, it's all clear when you actually read the scriptures. And that's why, matter of fact, since I already mentioned that, let's get that. That's why in the book of Revelation, it talks about blessed is he that readeth, right? A lot of people don't actually read the actual scriptures for themselves. They hear this, they hear that, and then that's it. It's fact. Anyway, let's get this real quick. I believe this is Revelation, the first chapter. Because what is written is the words in the book are faithful and true. There we go. I'm gonna actually start at 1. This is Revelation chapter 1, verse 1. The revelation of Yahushai HaMashiach, which the Most High gave unto him to shew unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. And he sent and signified it by his angel unto his servant John. So a lot of the scriptures here in the book of Revelations are revelations that were given to the apostle John that we could have in this time, all right? Because a lot of them, not every single one, but a lot of them pertain to our time in this time, where these prophecies would be fulfilled. Anyway, verse 2, it says, who bear record of the word of God and of the testimony of Yahushai HaMashiach and of all things that he saw. And that's what we have today, those records. Blessed is he, verse 3, that readeth, and they that hear the words of this prophecy and keep those things which are written therein, for the time is at hand. So blessed is he that readeth. And a lot of people don't read, because if you actually read like we do, you'll find out, wait a minute, that's not what it actually says. Such and such is on here saying X, Y, and Z, but what is actually written in the book? And that's why it says, blessed is he that readeth. So now, let's go to the book of Hebrews chapter 8, because that's really the subject matter here, right? This is what is written concerning the new covenant in the actual book. Now, this is Hebrews chapter 8, verse. Let me actually start at verse 7, right? And the subsection here is the need for a new covenant, right? The need for a new covenant. Now, the old covenant we know was, back in the wilderness after the Lord had delivered us from Egypt by the hand of Moses, right? Aaron and the rest of the elders. In the wilderness, the Lord made a covenant with us, right? And when we can read about that in Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, but there was a contract that we made with the Lord. The difference was the between that and the new covenant is that was written down, and we basically the laws at the time we made reference to. right? You would go, you would see, you read the laws. That's why you would have the fringes, right, upon the border of your garments, and they would remind you of those laws. But in the new covenant, we're not going to need to be reminded of those laws because it's going to be within you. Nobody has to remind you to breathe today, right? You don't walk around and you gotta look down and, oh, I gotta breathe. Let me breathe. No, you just breathe, right? When you're walking, nobody has to remind you, oh, make sure you take that right step and then take that left, and then take another right and then take that left. These are things you just do, okay? Just like babies, right? Babies, at a certain point, they start crawling, and then at a certain point, they're able to stand, and then at a certain point, they're able to walk. Now, that's actually designed within our DNA, because prior to the stage where a baby starts walking or crawling, they're not going to do it. No matter how early you want your child to walk, until they're at the stage where they've been designed to start walking, they're not going to start walking. But when they actually get to that stage, they're going to start doing it on their own. And there's an actual stage in which that starts to happen. Why? Because that's how the Lord programmed it within us. So when you go, I do not. Yeah, but I mean, you could. So, at the end of the day, when it gets to that stage, no matter what, the baby's gonna start walking on their own because that's how they've been programmed. So in the new covenant, when the Lord programs us, you're not gonna need to tell us. That's why, as I'm about to read, it says we're not gonna need to teach our neighbors who the Lord is. You don't need to teach somebody, hey, start breathing. When a baby comes out, they start crying and they take, as it says, they take their first breath. You don't need to tell the baby, hey, start breathing. They can't even really understand you, but they instinctively know what to do. When a baby's hungry and you put or if you want, you could. I mean, depending on if you want to stand, you could, like, whatever you want to do. But actually, this. When a baby's hungry and you put, the mother puts the breast into the baby's mouth, the baby starts sucking. The mother doesn't need to grab the baby's mouth and say, hey, it's time to start sucking now. The baby knows what to do. So what I had was Hebrews 8, just going into that.
Yeah, I watched the video earlier.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Came prepared. Hebrews 8 and 7. It says here, I'm reading it. When you get it, you can just hop in. But it says, for if that first covenant had been faultless, then should no place have been sought for the second. As a matter of fact, when we get where's this precept? It's in Second Esdras. I think we got it last time too. It might be the 7th chapter or so, where Ezra talks about how the Lord put the laws within us, and it was like when you put something in a vessel, usually if the vessel gets destroyed, the thing inside it gets destroyed. Water. So as it says here, for if that first covenant had been faultless, meaning if there wasn't a problem with the first covenant. Now, something to clarify is, if the first covenant, not the laws, but the first covenant, the covenant was the actual agreement. So if that agreement had not been nullified or had not been broken, that's what it means by the first covenant being faultless. Okay, remember, the covenant is the actual agreement. That's what it is. It's an actual agreement. So if that first agreement which we had with the Lord, meaning that, hey, matter of fact, let's jump there real quick in Deuteronomy, that, hey, if you keep these law, statutes, and commandments, I will be to you a God, you will be my people. But if you break it, these are the curses that are going to come upon you. The covenant was, we're supposed to keep these law, statutes, and commandments and follow the ways of the Lord. The ordinances, all of that. It's fun.
It's not.
Okay, count the water. Actually, can we get Revelation? Deuteronomy 28 and we can start at 15. I think 15 is good. 28 and 15. Let's get that. Yeah. And really start at 1, read 2, and then jump to 15. So going back to that first agreement, right? If that had been faultless, if we had kept the laws, first off, how would the first covenant have been faultless? If we were able to keep the law, statutes, and commandments perfectly, right? If we were able to follow what the Lord said perfectly, without wavering, without faults, then everything would have been all sweet. But guess what? Even the Lord knew that that wasn't going to be the case. You got it.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 1. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth.
Right. So this is a part of the agreement that we were making with the Lord, right? We do our part, which is to, as it says, hearken unto the words of the Lord, obey the commandments of the Lord. We do our part. And if we do that, then in return, this is what the Lord is going to do. And when you go to a job and you sign a contract, within the contract, it tells you the do's and the don'ts, right? And your responsibility as an employee here is you show up on this time, you come in uniform. You know, when this job, you're given this job, that's what you do, right? You know, X, Y, and Z. You know, you do that, and the third. And if you you know, if you are infraction of this is the penalty. They give you the handbook. You go and read the handbook and see the things that you can and cannot do. Right?
Deuteronomy chapter 28 verse 2. And all these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God.
Right. And so if you listen to the voice of the Lord your God, then all these blessings, as it's written in that chapter, is going to come upon you. Okay?
Jumping to verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day.
Right. So if you don't listen, go ahead.
That all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
So the curses are really even a sign of us being infraction of that covenant, right? That's the penalty. That's hey, you broke the agreement, okay? And so this is the punishment that's going to come upon you.
Can I jump to verse 46?
Yeah, go ahead.
Verse 46 reads, and they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. And when you go into that word sign, it means, when you go to etymology of it, it means evidence or token. There's another word for it. So showing you that these curses, when they come upon you, will be the evidence that you have broken what the Lord said not to do.
That's right. That's right. Beautiful. Now let's jump to
Second Ezra.
Actually, yeah, whole Second Ezra. Let's go. I'm gonna go back to Hebrews 8 real quick, and we can continue there. Matter of fact, let's see if we can get that. So drop this whole Second Ezra, and let's jump to Hebrews 8 and 7 again. So once again, going back to the blessed is he that readeth, right? When you read and you keep the words and the sayings of this book, you understand, hold on one second, okay, this is what the Lord is actually saying. Because look, at the end of the day, the scriptures are it's a real book, right? It's a practical book. This is about real life things that actually happen. You know, so it has to make sense to some degree. It has to make some form of logical sense when you read the book and you're hearing somebody explain it. It has to add up and make sense. Today, if somebody came up to you and said some BS, you'd be like, wait a minute, that doesn't even make sense. You know? So when you read the scriptures, remember that they were also living in a time just like we're living in a time today. Cool, you got that? Yeah, actually, Hebrews 8 and 7. You know? So anyway, as it says, being faultless, so why was it that the first covenant was faultless? When you go to the book of Romans, the 8th chapter, it tells us that the creature not willing was made subject to vanity, right, by the Most High, the Creator. So by default, being subject to vanity, meaning that we weren't perfect, we were going to go off at some point. And then due to that, there was going to be a new covenant that was going to be made. You got it.
Hebrews chapter 8, verse 7. For if that first covenant had been faultless, then should no place have been sought for the second.
So there's not a problem with the first agreement. The Lord is like, I wouldn't have had to create a new one, right? I wouldn't have had to when you let me give you an example. Recently you had the dock workers, right? Longhorn and L something A association, they went on strike, right? Temporarily they went on strike because the contract ended and they wanted better conditions. So I think the contract is about 6 years or so. So when it ends, they wanted to negotiate better terms for a new contract, right? Better wages and less automation is what they wanted primarily for the new contract before they go ahead and sign it. Now, given the example and tying it to what we just read here, as it says, for the first one was not faultless, if there wasn't a problem with the contract that these workers had, they wouldn't have gone on strike. They wouldn't have tried to negotiate new terms and conditions for the new contract. They would have just signed back up and went back to work. But they had problems. They said, "Oh, we're not getting paid enough. All these automations are gonna start stealing our jobs, and we need job security." And so there was a problem with their first agreement, and due to that, they were seeking a new agreement, a new contract, and only then did they go back to work. So what the Lord is saying here is, look, clearly the first one ain't working. Okay.
Can I read this in the Amplified? Mm-hmm. So Hebrews 8:7 Amplified says, "For if that first covenant had been faultless, there would have been no occasion for a second one or an attempt to institute another one, the new covenant."
There you go. So there it is right there, right? Okay, go ahead.
Back in the KJV, Hebrews 8:8, "For finding fault with them, he saith, Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, when I will make a new covenant."
So he found fault with them, right? The Lord found fault. And who was the them? The them was us. Why? Because the Lord said, okay, I made this agreement, I signed this contract. Now, in most cases, it's not the one giving you the contract that's infraction. Sometimes it can be the case, right? But in most times when you go to, apply for a job or whatnot, most of the time when an employee gets fired or some breach of contract happens, most of the time it's from the employee side and less from the employer side. Because the employer...
Negligence.
Yeah, there you go, negligence. Because the employer is established already. They've been doing this for a long time. So they already got the set rules on what to do. It's the employees that you may end up doing this and, offending somebody, or you may end up not doing your job right or causing some damage or whatever the case is. And that's a breach of contract. And then maybe if something is confidential, right? Like, for example, in the nursing field, you have like HIPAA, right? Something is confidential about a patient's, records or whatnot. You can't share that outside. Then that's a violation or a breach of contract or whatnot, right? So in this case, the Lord found fault with us because it wasn't him and it wasn't the laws that were the problem. It was us. That's why when you go into what is sin, is breaking of the laws. Who broke the laws? The Most High is not keeping those laws. They're not for him to keep, right?
Verse 8 again. "For finding fault with them, he said, Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, when I will make a new covenant."
So the Lord said, the days come. So there's going to come a time when I'm going to make a new covenant, right? Because there was a problem with this one. Go ahead.
"Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah."
With the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. That's the whole nation, right? The Lord is going to make a new agreement because the first one was with the whole nation. So I'm going to make a new one with everybody. Go ahead.
Verse 9, "Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers."
So this ain't going to be like the first one. Okay, this agreement that we're making is not going to be like the first one. Go ahead.
"Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt."
Right, and that's what we just read. And you can read about that. You really just go read the Torah. You get the whole, experience there. Go ahead.
"Because they continue not in my covenant, and I regard them not, saith the Lord."
Yeah, see? They continue not in my covenant, and I regarded them not. So they broke the covenant, and so that was it. I'm not going to... If you violate your contract and you get fired, you ain't going to get paid. Once you're fired, okay, maybe you work for a certain period of time, they give you that little pay. But that's it. You're not getting another check that's coming in the mail or another direct deposit on payday. You're not an employee there anymore. You're not treated as such. Okay? Go ahead.
Verse 10, "For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days."
So the Lord is saying, let me give you those the new terms and conditions. Go ahead.
"Saith the Lord, I will put my laws into their mind, and write them in their hearts."
Now, in the old covenant, that wasn't the case, right? The Lord wrote it on stone. He gave it to Moses on the mountain, right? He wrote it on stone, and then Moses brought it down. Moses had to go back up the second time because when he came down, he was so angry, he destroyed it. He broke it down, and then he went and he had to go back and get the second one, right? So in that case, the Lord, Moses wouldn't have have had to do that, and the Lord wouldn't have had to do that if he put it within the minds of the Israelites. Because then by the time Moses came down, they would have already been right. They wouldn't have been worshiping a golden calf, dancing and doing all this wickedness.
Read it again.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, it shows you how merciful and long-suffering the Lord is, right? In the very wilderness, Israel was already going off worshiping other gods. And that's the first commandment is, thou shalt have no other gods before me, Brakatah. So in the wilderness, the same wilderness that the Lord gave us these laws, statutes, and commandments, on our way to the promised land, you already had Israel going off.
Actually, verse 12 explains what you're saying as well. But I'll continue.
Okay.
It says, I will put my laws into their mind and write them in their hearts.
Yeah, and that's, how does the Lord write things in our hearts? The heart and the mind is synonymous here, right? So how does the Lord write things in our hearts? Remember, when you really, which scientists are even tapping into that today, when you deal with the human body, like the DNA, right, which holds instructions on how your cells should operate, how they should replicate, you know, when you get a cut, cells should rush over there. You know, your blood should coagulate so that you don't just gush out bleeding and bleed out, right? Your body knows when you're sick, right? When you have a cold, why do you sneeze? Why does your immune system behave a certain way, right there? Right? Why does your immune system behave a certain way? Why is there an increase in white blood cells, you know, in a certain area? Why does your body produce antibodies when it has this? Those are all instructions inside of your DNA that the Lord has already programmed. So we're like, you know, pre-programmed. Hey, when this happens, do this. So in actuality, when you get sick, it's not really the herbs that are healing you. Your body's healing itself. The herbs help it do that, right? Because they contain certain elements that are needful for your body. For example, you may have the reason they say like berries, blueberries, strawberries, and stuff are good for you is because on your day-to-day, you end up doing things, and those things eventually end up destroying your cells, right? A destroyed cell or an unbalanced cell is called a free radical, right? Basically, it doesn't have a balanced amount of electrons and protons and all that good stuff. And so what a free radical does is it'll go and try to steal some electrons off of another cell, then causing that cell to become another free radical, and now you have all these going on in your body. When you eat these berries, they're bringing a whole bunch of these electrons, and then every cell can get it, and then they can balance back out again, right? The point is, that's an example of some herbs helping your body balance itself out, right? Homeostasis. But how does your body know to do these things? You know, how does your body know to react a certain way? Because it's already pre-programmed within you. So that was the original design that the Lord put within us. When he talks about writing it right inside of our minds, these instructions on what your body should do when it gets hurt, when you're tired, how you should feel, when you're rested, how you should feel, how your body operates over here, those are all written into us. Okay? So now what the Lord is saying is, this time I'm going to include the law, statutes, and commandments in there. It'll almost be like a part of your biological processes. You know, your body's going to react. You know, today, for example, we know that you're not supposed to commit adultery, right? You're not supposed to commit adultery. It doesn't mean that your body is going to react that way. When your body sees a fine woman, it's going to naturally, as a man, your body, you see a fine woman, you lay eyes upon her, she's beautiful, you know, your heart rate starts going up, you start getting excited. Now you're curious, your antennas go up. Who is that? Why she look so good? What's going on over there, right? Your body's not going to stop and say, I'm not going to get aroused because that woman is not single. That has to come from your mind, but you need to consciously, you know, discipline yourself in order to get to that point. But take for example your sister or your mother. You're not gonna see your sister or your mother and get aroused. Your body is just not gonna behave that way. When you see another man, you're not gonna get aroused because your body is not gonna behave that way, right? That's not something you need to tell yourself. Oh, wait, hey, calm down now. No, whoa. You don't need to do that. Your body is naturally programmed and designed not to do that. But now you see a woman that's not your mom, that's not your sister, that's not your close relative, and she looks good, your body's gonna get aroused. When you smell feces, you're not gonna salivate. When you smell fried chicken, you're gonna salivate. So your body already knows the things that it should and the things that it should not do, because these things are already programmed within us. But when you get to the law, statutes, and commandments, because it's not programmed within you, guess what? When we were back in the world, you smelled bacon, pork bacon, you still salivated. Before you knew that it was an abomination, it was like, damn, I'll tear this shit up. You know? Shrimp, right? You get that Chinese food, shrimp fried rice, pork fried rice, all of those things. You ate it and it was good. When you smelt it, your tongue started, your saliva started coming up because your body was not programmed to say, that's off, stay away from that. You see a married woman, there was no difference between her and an unmarried woman because your body is not, it's not written within us to behave according to the laws. We had to, as the Apostle Paul mentioned, we'll get that real quick in Romans 12:2. We had to renew our minds and be not conformed to the ways of this world. So now what we're doing is we're sort of doing like what they call like a patchwork with our body, where that's why the Apostle Paul said you keep your body in the subjection. So using your mind, you keep your body under subjection to say, no, that's pork, that's disgusting. I don't want to eat that, right? No, that woman is married to another man. I'm not gonna think of her like that. I'm gonna shut down my body's processes from trying to get me to go after that. So when the Lord says now he's gonna write the laws in our inward parts, what he's saying is now you don't need to now do this whole mental and I'm gonna no. When you see pork, you're not gonna you're not gonna get hungry. When you see a married woman, it'll be like seeing your sister or seeing your mother. You're not gonna get aroused and then you go hunt her down and shit. Hey, shalom. How about show me out chat, bro? Stop.
The connection's a little messed up.
Yeah, it's all good. It's coming in.
Up right now.
Said it was going to be installed in us, like a program downloaded in us. Like you said about the married woman, we won't even have to wonder if that woman is married when walking by, because we're going to automatically know.
Right. Yep. That's a good point.
So, yeah, I was going to say it's like trying to play a PS2 game on a PS5. You know, you don't have the operating system for that. We don't have the operating system to execute righteousness perfectly. So we're waiting for that blessing, that gift. That's the carrot that the Lord is dangling at the end of it. The Lord is dangling that carrot, that reward at the end of it, because what will we have to look forward to? If we're already in the new covenant, we're good.
Right.
We don't need anything. So then we don't have to prophesy either. Just sit at home and chill.
Yeah.
Be with your woman. We will have dominion too. That's another thing.
Yeah.
It's funny because we did a lesson on this on the way here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Spirit.
And we tuned in and y'all was speaking about it. So the Spirit has its.
No, Spirit. That's it.
Oh yeah, I was also gonna say when you go into the customs as well, women would dress a certain way, so that way you would know, okay, this woman has a man and a woman doesn't have a man,
Right.
and those customs are gonna come back in the kingdom. So when you see a woman, you're gonna know, okay, she's dressed a certain way. It's not gonna be like how it is today, where it's like how women scantily dress. No,
Right.
like they're gonna be fully dressed, but there's gonna be a way that she dressed to know, like, okay, this woman's available or she's not available.
Oh, nice. I think it's good now. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm waiting for the sound, for the audio, the visual, but I can hear you. You can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right, cool.
Nice. But yeah, that's a good point. I forgot. Yeah, it's in there, and then also in the story, and I think it's either in the book of Samuel, where was it Tamar? Well, one of them was a virgin, and I think the scriptures tell you that there's a certain actual attire that virgins wear that you would know, okay, such and such is a virgin, you know, but she couldn't wear that no more because she was defiled. But long story short, coming back to the point, right? The point being that once the Lord installs that operating system, you know, put that into our minds, now we're all set. You know, now we're good. All right, you don't got to tell me. That's why the scriptures say, as we're gonna read, I don't need to tell this brother, hey yo, you got to stay away from such and such because of X, Y, and Z. It's already programmed within him. You know, I don't grab this, but hey, are you breathing? Make sure you breathe. You know what I mean? Yeah, you know, you want to make sure you do that. No, we're already gonna know what's up. You know, instinctively too. And that's why there's gonna be no death, because it's gonna be impossible for us to sin. You know, like As a matter of fact, if you try, you got certain people that try to take themselves out. One of the hardest things to try and do is imagine trying to actually suffocate yourself by just holding your breath. That's like one of the hardest things to do, because eventually you'll get to a part where your body will automatically just let it go and breathe, because it's programmed to preserve yourself. Your body's gonna be like, nigga, what's wrong with you? You ain't killing us both.
You gotta be a special kind of demon for that.
Hell yeah.
Drown yourself. You underwater and you just gonna sit down.
Right.
It ain't gonna happen.
Right.
It's contrary to nature.
There you go. Contrary to nature.
Like U.S. Navy SEALs who practice holding their breath for the longest, but they only can go for like maybe 2 or 3 minutes. Tops, the highest level, but your mind is going to control any of your restraints to make you come to the top.
Mm-hmm. Like when you put your hand in fire and you instinctively pull it back.
I was about to say what you were saying about how we going to have to teach that brother this not go on. Like you said, it's going to become restricted, but we still out here teaching. So, it ain't like camp is forbidden right now, but it's mandatory for us. You got the elders that have been teaching for so long and they still go out to camp. So if it was so old, every camp should not be out on Saturday. They know it's deep embedded in us that we are programmed to teach. We come out here to feed the Lord's sheep. So if we out here doing it, obviously it shows us that we're still not in the covenant.
Right. You got some more on that?
Yeah. Verse 11, Hebrews chapter 8, verse 11. And they shall not teach every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, Know the Lord. For all shall know me, from the least to the greatest. Verse 12, for I will be merciful to their unrighteousness, and their sins and their iniquities will I remember no more.
There you go. Read that. Run that back again, bro. Yep. Sure.
Verse 11, and they shall not teach every man his neighbor.
Like the bar was just saying, right? You're not going to need to teach your neighbor. We're not going to need to teach, hey, by the way, you an Israelite. Well, we're doing that today. That's why we have this sign. The fact that people come and they wonder when they look at this sign, especially Israelites, shows you that we're still in that time when we need to teach them. Do you see yourself on this sign? Oh, yeah, my father's. Oh, okay, so you're from this tribe. The fact that you got to do that is an example that we're still at the point where we have to teach them who they are.
When you go into that word teach, one of the definitions, it says instill doctrine into one.
Look at that. There you go. Instill doctrine into one. So what are we doing? When we teach this doctrine, we're instilling this doctrine, the righteous doctrine of the Lord, into another. As a matter of fact, we're coming into the hour of temptation. There should be no, it shouldn't even be a temptation. Everybody should just be able to know we ain't taking that. It's within us to remain loyal to the Lord. Ain't none of us taking that. So why would the Lord say, I'm going to put it in your hearts to where you're never going to break any of my laws, but I'm going to test you. I already made sure that you can't go off, and now I'm going to give you an hour of temptation now.
The flesh is the test. The flesh is the test. And another thing too that myself and the brother had mentioned was, even amongst those that know the law, so-called other Israelite camps, we have to teach them the proper doctrine.
Right.
They might know the laws, they might know not to commit adultery, the dietary law, but we still got to teach them the doctrine. One of these things being the new covenant. And other wayward doctrine, we got to teach them the proper prophecies. We got to teach them about the MOTB, that it's an implantable device. We got to teach about where Babylon the Great is, so it even goes beyond the law, because the whole book is really law.
Teach the name.
Right.
It's a lot of waking up. Like this Israel 2.0 version of what the new covenant is going to be. It encompasses a lot of correction. So, we still going on from the first covenant. So the things that we see Israel doing right now, they were doing back when our father's time, during the time that he let us out of Egypt. So it's like, how can you consider this being a new covenant if we still doing the same things that they went on for in the first place?
We're doing worse.
Yeah, that's what I said, even worse.
That's it.
Sin is at an all-time high right now. But just to bring out a quick precept, James is to show you that we in those times where James 12, 1 and 12. Right now, because we in the all-time high ascending, it's a blessing to be a part of the new covenant. You know, be a part of the elect.
James 1:12. Blessed is the man that endureth temptation, for when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life.
Right. The temptation is avoiding the sins of this world, avoiding the wickedness. All right. That temptation is what we fighting for. The hopefully, that's why we consider the hopeful elect, because the elect is going to pass those tests of time, pass those temptations. All right. And that's why it's considered blessed. So when you think you're blessed, you're not blessed if you ain't really had the temptation of not eating pork, not calling the Lord out his name, not saying the Lord's true name. I mean, being able to say the Lord's true name. All right, knowing the difference between doctrine, and knowing the difference between the new covenant and the old covenant. All right, those are passing the test of temptation, enduring the temptation. And the crown of life is the salvation. All right, crown of life is the thing that we aspire to get, to receive. So right now, if you don't have the crown, none of us have the crown of life yet, because we still got these fleshly bodies. All right. So these are the things that we look forward, and that's what makes you a hopeful elect. Lord willing, you be the elect, but the new covenant is entitled to the elect.
Right.
All of Israel, but the elect is going to receive it first.
Right, it's gonna start with the elect.
You can hear me?
Just a little more.
On the precept?
Yeah, just to finish the verse. Which the Lord hath promised to them that love him.
Right. Think you had something, Zaquan?
Yeah, you can hear me?
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add on, speaking about the New Testament, the New Covenant rather, when you think about like what a covenant is, being the joining, together of two parties, coming to an agreement, that's sort of like a marriage, right? And we know that ultimately the marriage is consummated, once you enter into those bed chambers, and spiritually, until we're with Yahushua in the chariots, we're technically not underneath that new agreement. That's why even here in Revelation 19, verse 7, it says, I'm reading in the NLT, it says, let us be glad and rejoice, and let us give honor to him, for the time has come for the wedding feast of the Lamb, and his bride has prepared herself. So this is a prophecy that John the Revelator saw, right? And this is something that's happening once Yahushua returns, which is why it says that for the time has come for the wedding feast. So if there wasn't a wedding feast yet, then there hasn't been an actual agreement. The agreement's already been had, but the coming together of the bride and the lamb for that wedding feast, or that covenant, hasn't actually taken place yet. And that's only going to take place once Yahushua returns, which is why it says in Revelation 21, is it 21? Yeah, Revelation 21, I'm going to start at verse 11. It says, he that is unjust, let him be unjust still. And he which is filthy, let him be filthy still. And he that is righteous, let him be righteous still. And he that is holy, let him be holy still. Right? So we know in the new covenant, there's not going to be anybody that's not righteous, right? As brothers have made mention, that we're no longer going to need to teach our neighbor or our brother to know the Lord, for everybody's going to know the Lord. So there's not going to be anybody that's unrighteous or unjust, right? Starting with the first fruits, which is the bride. Verse 12, it says, and behold, I come quickly, my reward is with me to give every man according as his work shall be. And that reward ultimately is the joining together fully with Yahushua through the new bodies, right? Through being completely righteous, having the laws within us, being immortal. And that ultimately would be. You can hear me?
Okay, yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Fuck it. That ultimately would be when we're in the new covenant fully, is when we have that full reward of what the new covenant entails, which ultimately is immortality. You got it.
That's right. Yep. Yeah, that's that's right. Because as a matter of fact, since you mentioned that, it's really impossible for us to to fully be in that covenant in these bodies anyway. Because if we were under the new covenant, we would never sin and we would never die. But we're in mortal flesh, and this body, no matter what you do, will die because it's just designed that way. This is mortal flesh. So really, in order to fulfill that to where we don't ever die, where we're immortal, which is a part of that covenant, we would actually need new bodies that would be able to live on continually forever, you know. And that's why the Lord, like mentioned, he would, because this body has already been programmed, right? It's already been programmed. The instructions are already in there. So the new bodies, that's the Lord is gonna program. Okay, right here, you don't do this, right? You see that? You ain't no. You ain't thinking that way, all right? It's a whole different way of a mentality, a way of living now. Because honestly, man, the new covenant really wouldn't be all that if we're already in it now. You know, if I look around and I see Jake, you know what I'm saying? I see the stupid shit they doing worse and worse now. And please explain to me, what exactly did we enter into this since we're already under this new covenant? What was the transition where we went from old to new and we're fully in this new right here? I want to see the difference. Because Jake been the same. As a matter of fact, they been getting worse. You know?
If I may add, a wedding, like the Zaquan mentioned, a wedding is like a glorious thing.
Right.
It's a big deal. So the Lord is going to make it dramatic. He's going to make it a big deal. That's why the second Passover is going to happen too.
Right.
So he's going to let it be known, this is my woman. And that's when, like the Zaquan said, it's going to be consummated. Mm-hmm. So we're engaged to the Lord now. We have the expectation of it. You know, we have the hope of it. But ultimately, it's going to be consummated in a glorious, in a dramatic fashion. Mm-hmm. It's never been like you just said, there's never been like one event where you can say, well, this is the time, the new covenant. Because it was nothing that overpassed that old Passover. So it's going to have to be, like we read in Jeremiah 16 earlier, that it's going to be something that overpasses the old Passover. And then that has to match the new covenant, which is going to be infinity, eternity, immortality,
right,
and everlasting dominion.
Yeah, in the scriptures, it says that the bride has made herself ready. So we're in the process of making ourselves ready right now. Once we're fully ready, which is, you know, after the prophecies and, you know, once all of the elect are sealed, that's when, you know, we get to walk down that, you know, proverbial aisle, which is ultimately getting beamed up, you know, and becoming one with Yahushua. That because we're already a part of the body mentally, but there's going to be a point where we're literally, as John, I think it's in 1 John, said, we don't know how we shall appear, but we should be like him. So like when you see, it's like now when you see a wife, you know, she's a good wife, seeing her, you should already see like her husband in the sense of, I think it's in Proverbs, like her name, how she carries herself, basically praises her husband, and you can know her husband based off of just seeing her. Well, that's how it's going to be when we, you know, get in those new bodies. You're going to know, the world is going to know that he is Yahweh exists when he sees us, because he's going to make us like his son, Yahushua. And there's another precept here in the book of Hebrews 8, verse 6. It says, I'm reading in the NLT. It says, but now Yahushua, our high priest, has been given a ministry that is far superior to the old priesthood, for he is the one who mediates for us a far better covenant with the Most High based on better promises. So those promises that the better covenant or the new covenant, you know, is supposed to have is something that we haven't received yet. We haven't received the promise of immortality, the promise of never dying, the promise of not being sick, all these things. And that's what the new covenant is based off of. So that's why, once again, we're not in the new covenant yet, because we're the promises that we're supposed to have based off of the new covenant. That's it.
That's right. Very beautiful point. I think that's right.
Yeah, no, you brothers pretty much are saying the same thing. Like, if we're in the new covenant, and if you listen to Bishop Nathaniel, they're just saying we're in the new covenant, but you're not explaining what entails or comes with the new covenant, like the elder was going into, like the new bodies, dominion. Here it is, we're still in captivity, but yet we're in the new covenant. How are we still under our oppressors, but yet we're in the new covenant? If you go to Isaiah 60 and things like that, Isaiah 61, those things come with the kingdom. Those things come with, you know, pretty much the new covenant, where, you know, the stranger shall build up our walls and things like that. I don't see nobody building up my walls. Ain't nobody doing shit for me.
We got walls.
Exactly. Ain't nobody.
Jail cells for
Yeah, I still gotta go to work, brother. Still gotta work. What the hell? So how are we in the new covenant? They're just saying that, and then they always say, "Stop listening to these dumb Hebrews that say black Hebrews that tell you we're not in the new covenant." But then explain how we are. Explain what it comes with it. The same thing like they do with the MOTV. They're just saying that's this and that, but they're not really explaining it to you.
Yeah, because they can't. And I think in the video that I was watching, that the elder Manat Zakba did, in the video, what Bishop Nate was saying was that, how are we? I think he said, how are we not in the new covenant if we're still teaching our people? Something along the lines. But it was basically like a reversal, right? We know that in the new covenant, we're not going to need to teach our people. But I guess what he was saying is the proof that we're in the new covenant is that we're teaching our people that you got to be X, Y, and Z. And that's what the elder was addressing in the video. He's like, as a matter of fact, it's the actual opposite of that. You know, the fact that we're teaching our people shows that we are not in the new covenant. But I think the precept they used was one that said we've been made ministers of a
Let me see on the phone.
yeah. And but once again, let's just see that reader, you know, because you got to sit down and think. Just because somebody brings out a precept that has the same words as what he's talking about, oh, it had the word ministers and new and then testament covenant, cool, that's it. That means it's fact. No, you got to actually understand what does the precept actually mean though, and how does it connect to the point you're trying to make here? Because I can hear what you're saying, but I don't see the connection though. I don't see the point you're making here. Because what does it explicitly say in Hebrews the 8th chapter? You know? But hey, once again, it's all the Lord's doing, right? The Heavenly Father is the one doing all of this.
I thought about it. 2 Corinthians 2.
Hebrews, the 8th chapter, is giving you a description of the new covenant. All right, so anything that you go into is contrary to Hebrews 8. You're going off from what is written in the scriptures.
Right.
All right, it's a distinct description of what will be portrayed in the new covenant, which is we won't have to teach our brothers. All right.
That's right. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is the precept. 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 6, who also had made us able ministers of the New Testament, not of the letter, but of the spirit.
Yeah. So basically, they took that one. Oh, hey, you know, he likes to be real animated, right?
Gotcha.
Yeah. Hey, new ministers. What is that? What we teaching now, right? Of the New Testament, New Covenant. What? We in it. It's the ministers of a new covenant. That's it. Hey, can I get an amen? That's the whole thing that is pushed, and then the people in there. Yeah. That's it. That's not it. You got it, bro.
Khan, Shalom. Y'all Bashim Yashab Brakatab. Y'all can hear me?
Yes, sir.
Beautiful. Hey, Shalom to Zaquan, Yahal Bashim Yashab Brakatab as well to you. All right. And, go back to the point y'all brothers is making, right? Remember, there's multiple precepts in the book of Revelation that talks about the Lord making us kings and priests, right? And we're going to reign with him forever. Okay, now the reign hasn't happened yet. Last time I checked, we are the ones who are still subject to payments. We're the ones who are still about to go through the time of what is known as the time of Jacob's trouble. Okay, if we're already in the new covenant, all these things are gone away. As it says in Revelation, the 21st chapter, the Lord is going to wipe away all our tears. There'll be no more weeping, sorrow, crying. That's all part of this covenant. Okay, that's all the suffering and everything comes from the first covenant being broken. Okay, that's why we suffer in the first place. All right, now you made mention a few minutes ago, all right, about how when Moses got the laws, when he came down from the mountain, he saw what Jake was doing and he broke the stones. Right, that was spiritually symbolic of us eventually being breaking the laws, really, right? Because Moses is the king, right? In the incarnation as David, okay, and when he came down with the laws was given to him, and what did he do? He broke it, physically broke it, and then spiritually, Jake just went off and on and on and on and on. And now the Lord is saying, I'm going to make a new covenant. This time it's not going to be on stone where it could break. This time it's going to be within you. And like you mentioned beautifully, y'all brothers all, chimed in beautifully on how even the human body works and so on and so forth, just going according to your nature. Okay. Now, one huge indication that we're going to know, right, that we're actually in the new covenant physically, because right now, spiritually, there's different things going on, but in the physical, right, There's the book of First Corinthians, chapter 15, starting by verse 50. It says, "Now this I say, brethren, that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God." Okay, so that's the first point right there. Okay, well, right now we are in flesh and blood. But the Lord is saying that what He's going to give us something else that's going to be able to help us inherit the kingdom of God, because the kingdom of God is perfect, right? This flesh, this body that we have, this mind, the way we're programmed, we're not programmed to be perfect. Okay, as a matter of fact, we are programmed to be imperfect, so the Lord could make a point. Okay, so it says, neither the corruption inherit incorruption. You see, so the spirit world, or at least the kingdom of God, as is written, is a place of incorruption. But here we are in corrupt bodies, about to inherit something that's incorruptible is not possible. We have to be matched with where we're going to be at. We have to be matched with what time period we're going to be in. Okay, and the time period of Yahushua's reign is perfection. So you have to be perfect in order to be in that kind of state. You know, our physical bodies can't even go up into the chariot and survive with the speed, with the pressure, and all these different things. You know, going on it, looking at it on a physical level. Okay, so verse 51, it says, "Behold, I shew you a mystery." Why is it a mystery? Because a lot of people are not going to be able to get it. Okay, sometimes when you go to that word mystery, it goes into, I believe, the word mysterion, right, which is something of a secret, if you will. Okay, as a matter of fact, let's just look it up real quick and see what we got. Okay. It says mystery, yep, mysterion. It says hidden thing, secret, or mystery. That's it. Okay? So it goes back to the elect are the only ones who are going to receive this mystery. They're the only ones who are going to understand this mystery. That's why this whole new covenant thing is hard for some to get, and for some it's very easy. It's okay, yep. It's just that simple. You know? So going back to it, the apostle Paul is saying what? He's gonna show us a mystery. He said, "We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed." Okay, some of us are not going to die, but all of us are going to be changed, right? Eventually, it says, "In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump, for the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed." So, if you die, that means that you are corruptible. Your body is going to decay. But if you're going to be raised up incorruptible, that means that your spirit's going to be raised up and put into a vessel that's going to never die. You become immortal at that point. Okay, and you have that program, like brothers was going into. That body is going to come with a program that's going to fit what is required for the new world that we're going to be in. You see, so we're not going to be going off. We're not going to be thinking about going off. It's just not going to be a thing. It is not going to exist. That's why there will be no more sin. That means we can't die. It's just that simple. Okay, it says for this corruptible must put on incorruption, right? The new bodies, right? And this mortal shall have put on immortality. Okay, so your mind and your body is going to be in sync, so that way you don't die, right? Scripture says, we don't know what your house is going to be like, but what he's going to look like. But when he comes back, we know we're going to be like him. Okay, we already like Yahushua because we have the mind of Yahushua. We just don't have the body of Yahushua to do the things that we're supposed to do to keep us alive. Okay, so he has to be the one to carry us every single time. But once he comes back, he's coming back with a whole different, a different energy altogether for his elect. Okay, and then the rest of the nation who die on this side and around the world, they're going to be coming back through the loins of those who are chosen, the first fruits, the Lord's cluster. Okay, so it says what? For this corruptible shall have put on incorruption, and this mortal shall have put on immortality. Then shall be brought to pass the saying that is written, "Death is swallowed up in victory." Then officially you are in the new covenant. That's another way of saying it, because the new covenant comes with us never dying. So death swallowed up in victory means that this thing is over with. No more corruption. No more things that's going to lead to our death. No more things that's going to lead us to break the laws. No more, because it's already within us. Okay. It says, "O death, where is thy sting? O grave, where is thy victory?" It says the sting of death is sin. Okay. And the strength of sin is the law. You see, so if the law is already within you, you're not going to go off. If it's not within you, you have a high chance of going on, right? Because some people might not even understand. Hey, a lot of us were born without some of the most of the laws even being in our minds. We had to learn them. So that means that the Lord had to put certain people on the scene to teach us the things of life, the ways of life, the ways that's pleasing to the Heavenly Father. You see? But once it's put within us, we don't need somebody to hey, sit your ass down. Sit down. Once it's within us, we don't have to go learn the ways of life. It's already in us. You're born that way, like you brothers was going into. You see, that's going to separate us from the rest of these nations, because they're going to need us to be kings and priests for them to be able to what? To keep our laws. We're not going to be kings and priests amongst our, like, governing ourselves in that way. No, it's already a hierarchy that's already there. You see? So within our nation, the ranking system, the laws, everything is going to be followed to a T. But these other nations going to have to relearn. They're going to be taught everything. And the first 1,000 years is going to be done with violence. But after that, the message is going to be well received and understood. Right? It says, but thanks be to the Most High, which giveth us the victory through our Lord Yahushua. Okay? Because he's the one who's going to come in to make that new covenant official. Like the Zaquan mentioned earlier, the marriage, that official marriage, once you come together, that communion is over with. Remember, he said, well, come up, come up, my people, right? Enter into thy chambers, okay, until the destruction be overpassed, right? Roughly paraphrasing. So during that time, you're going to be one with the Lord. This spirit is going to be taken out, and once we get beamed up, you're entering into a new body, okay? I've had a discussion with, I think, my brother before, and I was like, yo, imagine how it's going to be, that transition, okay? Being in this body here, looking around and seeing, damn, oh, this shit is happening. And then in the twinkling of an eye, you get gone. And then you wake up, take that deep breath. You wake up in a new body, new breath, like, oh, shit, it's different. What the, And then you see the destruction going on, because the chariot, in our minds, the chariot is going to have that clear glass underneath it where we could see everything. So you're standing on clear glass. That's stuff, whoo, like, But it's all going to be happening so fast, you're not even going to think about it. It's just going to be like, oh, like, wow. It's a different ball game altogether. Like how when a baby comes into this world, what's the first thing they do is they cry. When we get that new body, like new babes, but in grown up bodies or whatever, right? It's going to be a feeling of joy and relief. Like finally, like, oh my, I made it. Like, whew, like wake up into a new body and you're like, oh shit. You feel different. You feel strong. You feel powerful. You feel right. In this body, you don't feel right. That's why babies cry. They're like, oh, what the fuck is this shit? Like, this is like, oh, But you get into the new bodies, you're going to feel right, because it's going to be perfect to match your spirit. Okay? So it says, therefore, beloved brethren, be ye steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, for as much as ye know that your labor is not in vain in the Lord. Right? So what we're doing, the labor that we're doing here, right? The planting, the watering of the plants, all these different things that we keep doing, it's for a reward. Okay? It's for everlasting life. It's for immortality. Esau's looking for the same thing, but he's doing it on the left-hand side, trying to bring in AI, right? Artificial immortality. That's never going to happen. That's a vain thought. See, our work is not in vain. His is definitely in vain. And the Lord's going to prove that to him in a very few, Lord willing, very few more months. Okay? Yeah, brothers got it. I want to add that in there.
Yeah, that's it. That's a good point. You mentioned the waking up, basically opening up your eyes in the new bodies. I sort of imagined, if you've seen the movie Avatar, the blue, blue creatures, how he was put in this thing. He closed his eyes. When he opened his eyes again, he was in that different big Avatar body. But even taking that breath, because the way we breathe now, the way our lungs and everything is set up, it's probably not even going to be close to how it's going to be in those new bodies. Like when you eat that horseradish on the Passover, but on the good side, right? When that thing, you take that bite, and then instantly you get that boom. Oh shit, okay. That sinus clear. Or even when you drink it, you drink for a while, depending on what you're drinking, and then eventually it hits you. You feel a different feeling in your body, But this one, imagine being able to, have this new body. You can hear things differently, smell things differently, differentiate between different scents. Actually use your senses the right way. Like in the movie Lucy, how as she started to get closer to 100%, she started to see things differently. Like she could look at a tree and actually see the elements going in and out of it. She could see people. She could grow her hair longer. She could change the color of her hair. She was able to understand how things work on a deeper level than just the human eye can perceive. Because we're seeing these things but our brain is not able to actually see the deeper level of these things. And if you can't see it, it's almost like it's not there, you know. But yeah, just adding on to your point.
Yeah. This is how a future prophecy of Jeremiah was given to us about the new covenant is entitled. Where we at right now is definitely not with the description of the new covenant entitled, which is this is Jeremiah 32, verse 38. And it reads, Jeremiah 32, verse 38, and they shall be my people, and I will be their God. So us as Israel right now, you see a lot of Jake with they serving different gods. So for us to have a new, in the new covenant, we all of Israel is going to be serving that one high, most high Yahweh. All right, and it also reads in 39. It says, and I will give them one heart and one way, that they may fear me forever, which is future prophecy, which is forever meaning, everlasting. And right now, for us not to be serving as a total of all of Israel serving him, and for us not to have that everlasting way to know which is right, we still trying to find out which is the right way, us as Jake. Therefore, that shows you that this is a future prophecy, and we will be entering that future prophecy when we have the new covenant. Finishing off, and it says that they may fear me forever. Again, that word forever. All right, for the good of them and of their children after them. All right, so that's for generations to come as well. They're gonna have that forever fear and that way that they're gonna understand. Right now, we don't have that right now.
Yep. Yeah, as a matter of fact, really, this, the second we entered into that we were put under that new covenant, we would have been delivered, because King Solomon prayed. He said that if all Israel was to turn to the Lord wholeheartedly and seek him, then that very moment he will come and deliver us. Well, under the new covenant, that's exactly what we would do, because then we wouldn't need to teach each other about the Lord anymore. So you see how what's going on here is we're showing there's so many things wrong with that saying or that teaching. And the thing about the truth is, the scriptures talk about your adversaries not being able to gainsay nor resist. So let's say you consider us your adversaries. We're able to gainsay and resist and prove the things that you're saying wrong using the very same book. And that goes to show that the problem isn't with the words of the book, but it's with somebody's understanding.
Yeah, I was also going to add, pretty much what Bishop Nathaniel and IUIC is doing is they're pretty much lulling you to sleep in a time where you should be awake and very alert, because Jacob's trouble and the MOTB is right around the corner. For them to tell you that you're in the new covenant, well, you're going to think that, oh, well, I'm chilling, I'm good now, I'm fine, I ain't got to worry about nothing. But then right around the corner is Jacob's trouble. Then when Jacob's trouble happens, the MOTB, the hour of temptation happens, you're going to be like, what's going on? Why is all this happening? You're going to be confused. So essentially, they're lulling you to sleep. They're putting you to sleep, not preparing for the times ahead.
Yeah, it's called the Mal-Harris syndrome. It comes from the Kamala Harris syndrome. And basically, what it is if you look at her, she'll tell you one thing today, and then 2 years later, she'll come and say a complete other thing, because he's switching up on it when people start to get on her ass. Well, the same person that said there wasn't going to be a time of Jacob's trouble has now turned around and flipped it. Same person that said the MOTB was an embargo and this and that, and I don't know how many times they switched it now, has now came and said this. Same person that sat down and broke down the name of the Lord in the Hebrew and everything in detail, can now come out and said, you don't got to call him that no more, right? Mal-Harris syndrome. So now you need to be worried and careful in your mind to say, wait a minute, okay, if this is your record, how do I know that? Then you tell me the MOTB is not the sea hip. I go and take it, and then you turn around and say, oh, matter of fact, we found out we got some new revelations. It is the sea hip. Now what happened to everybody that went and took it?
Meddle not with them.
That's
given to change.
The thing that came to my mind. Meddle not with them that are given to change. Why? Because of that. Yo, make a right over here. Make a right, and then you run up into some shit. You told me to make. Well, no, I meant make a left. The reason is because you're gonna end up getting messed up. You trust somebody that's unreliable, you're gonna end up getting messed up.
And what usually happens, you usually get frustrated. Make up your damn mind. What is it?
Right. You got it. I think somebody. How
Hey, got a quick precept here. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 23, start up at verse 1. It says, "Woe be unto the pastors that destroy and scatter the sheep of my pasture, saith the Lord Yahweh." So here it is. You got the right hand side of the Lord going into the spirit of Amos, the 9th chapter, about the Lord gathering the elect, right? Sifting us like corn that's sieved, right? So there's a process of sifting. There's a process of vetting. There's a process of analyzing everything and everyone, really, okay? Because the Lord is looking for perfection. So you don't want to mix in, those who are just because you call yourself an Israelite doesn't mean that you're of the elect of the nation of Israel. So obviously there's going to be a differentiation. How would you know? How would you know if you're following the ways of the Lord or the ways of the world? That's made to be like the ways of the world, the Lord, right? That's what Bishop Nate and them be doing, right? They tying in, they're tying in the worldly thinking and try to bring it into this Israelite thing. That's not going to work. All right. But it says what? "Therefore, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, power of Israel, against the pastures that feed my people, ye have scattered my flock and driven them away, and have not visited them. Behold, I will visit upon you the evil of your doings, saith the Lord." So is it safe to say, according to this right here, that the Lord is going to bring judgment upon those that do what these people in the IUIC and them are doing? You damn right. You damn right, because every work comes with a reward. So if you're doing the right thing according to the Lord, that comes with a reward. And if you're doing this wicked ass shit, flip flopping every day, the Kamala Harrison that you're doing, right? That's also coming with a reward. Okay, that's coming with a reward, man, because that's a wicked thing. What we say, that's a what? Nasty work. That's exactly what it is. All right. All right. It says, verse 3: I will gather the remnant of my flock out of all countries whither I have driven them, and I'll bring them again to their folds, and they shall be fruitful and increase. Okay, when is that going to happen? That's happening right now. That is happening right now by word of this truth. Okay, that's what's happening right now. What did Yahushua say? He said what? And the gospel of the kingdom shall be preached throughout the whole entire world, and then the end shall come. Okay, why does it have to be preached throughout the whole entire world? Because you have Israelites who are scattered, who the Lord said He's going to bring in by way of this word. That's why. Okay, so if we were to be just stuck in one place, just teaching one people, we're gonna be here forever. See, so the Lord created this platform known as YouTube or the internet or whatever to what? To push out this word to all nations as in Israelites who are in these nations to hear it, and the elect of them to what? Repent and be saved. It's as simple as that. The elect not gonna be saying the shit that IUIC is saying, that the MOTB is what do you say what they be saying? There's a sin and all its ways, both political and religious. And then one of them says, when it's in your forehead is when you think sin, and if it's in your hand when you do sin. So are we still in the new covenant then? If you could actually sin, what's going on with that? What's going on with that? All right now. So it says what? It says, and I will set up shepherds over them, which shall feed them. So that's the feeding them with what? The rivers of living water. That knowledge, right? Look at the apostles. Okay, those are examples of good shepherds. All right, that they emulate the spirit of Yahushua every single day. Videos is going up. That's edifying. Okay, Paz Gabar has literally a channel called Daily Edification. Daily Exhortation. Literally. Okay, all of us we try to emulate that same spirit. Y'all brothers, the elders, y'all always putting out videos, man. That's the Lord saying what? He will set up shepherds over them, which shall feed them. Right. So a shepherd is doing two things. You're watching over them, and you're also feeding them. Okay, that's why the rebuke videos be coming out. Look at the elder Benat Zagba. Okay, he always going into that because he's always watching. All right, that's the spirit of a shepherd. All right, rebuking. All right, and so on and so forth. Okay, it says what? And they shall fear no more, nor be dismayed, neither shall they be lacking, saith the Lord Yahweh. And that's normally in your mind. All right, Isaiah 33:6. Having this knowledge, having that food within you, all right, appropriately, guess what happens? You become stable. Okay. Now, when the physical, actual shit happens, we're gonna be good because we've been fed enough. We've been built up. We got the proper amounts of proteins, carbs, you know, healthy fats, you know, you got it all. The balanced diet is kicking in. So your energy, your ATP is running smooth. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You know, you got all them shits firing on all cylinders, man. And the rest are going to be lacking, right? Some they're going to be weary. You know, and the Lord said he's going to give us an extra energy, like a different spirit, you know, and that's what we're waiting for. All right. But you got to do the work the right way in order to what? To get that right result. Those who are lacking, you know, IUIC, they're lacking mad ingredients. The food sucks. It's whack. If you eat that food, you know you're going to be malnutrition, man. You know, you're going to either have a big ass head, little ass skinny legs, little arms and shit, or you're going to have a big ass stomach, a skinny ass body. You know, you going to look funny. You're not going to look right. When the Lord looks at you, you're going to be like, the fuck, this ain't part of my sheep. But the Lord's sheep, those who listen to the true prophecies and actually go according to the ways of the Lord, they look right. You know, the Lord sees, like, that's right. That's it. That's my sheep right there. Look at beautiful right there, you know? And that's again, just giving you a similitude, all right, of what's actually going on right now. All right, in the midst of Israel. Okay. But I think that should be it, brothers. You got it.
That's it.
Micah 3:1. And I said, hear, I pray you, O heads of Jacob, and ye princes of the house of Israel. Is it not for you to know judgment? Right. And that's dealing with Israelite leaders. Because nothing is new under the sun. The same ones that were going off, getting Jake to go off back then, they're doing the same thing now. You see? Second verse. Who hate the good and love the evil. Right. That's why they throw dirt on our names. Because we're teaching the doctrine the right way. And it's not appealing to the masses. It's not appealing to the world. That's why we don't have a big following. That's why people walk by and they don't pay us no mind. But that's fine, because this is all based off of faith. If there was thousands of people here and you see like mass crowds and everybody singing our praises, we're doing something wrong. All right?
Right, because it's an evil world.
Right, exactly. It's an evil world and people are under evil vibration. So even though people who claim to be Israelites, they're still under the worldly vibration, you know? But it says, again, who hate the good and love the evil, who pluck off their skin from off them and their flesh from off their bones, which when you go to Ezekiel 37, it likens the skin and the bones is likened unto this truth, receiving the knowledge. So they're plucking the skin off of you. All right, they are skinning you. All right, and they're flaying you. All right, and they're about to have a big feast. All right, because what are they doing? They're getting profit off of your ignorance when it comes to IUIC, ISUPK. And they get a lot of money from the government to do that. That's why we always talk about the 501c3. People say, what's the big deal? It's just a 501c3. No, it is a big deal, because now your message is compromised. And in order for you to keep them big bucks and keep that tax exempt status, you can't speak the way we speak.
Right.
You see?
Right. And that's real too. What the brother's saying, you know, it's not like it's you hear it over and over. 501c3, they got a C3, they got a gun. So it just sounds like yeah. No, but that's actually real. You know, they sign contracts and they do all of that, and they tell them explicitly, look, these are certain things you have to abide by this contract. You know, you can't do this, you can't do that. You know, and then they tell them the things that in order to qualify for this, you got to be able to fall under this category. To fall under this category, that means your beliefs have to be in line with this Christian dogma, which is why a lot of them start to sound more and more like Christians, because you got to fall under this category to qualify for this benefit, which you're trying to get.
Why do you think Johanna and Nate both said the jab was cool?
Mm-hmm.
Nate was a little fishy about it, but he didn't definitively say no, so you might as well have said yes. It's cool. You know, why? Because they know if they start speaking against that, give me that tax exempt status.
Right.
The same shit that you went to Esau for, he could take it away from you. That's why we don't deal with Esau and his ordinances when it comes to our church. All right, this is its own entity that's separate from his whole setup. So he can't control. He can't come over here and tell us what to say.
Right.
That's the beautiful part about it. We're independent. You got artists out there, they're independent, they do what they want to do. But we're independent through Yahweh Hashem Yahushua from this system. It says,
and that's why you gotta pay attention to patterns, because when you start to see these different groups start teaching wayward things, okay, yeah, this person is teaching this, but this person is teaching that. But what do they have in common? You know, they'll two groups who agree that you can have sex on the Sabbath, Then a different pair will agree that, you know, hell is a real place, you go and burn forever. Then another group will come out and say, but then they'll all be saying things that all link with what one another are saying. You know, then you start saying, wait, okay, everybody, you guys all started bugging out, but you're all bugging out the same way. That's a little suspicious, right? Why is everybody bugging out in the same way? You know, I bugged out, but in bugging out, I think that now, you know, Edomites can make it. You know what I'm saying? Or now the Most High's name, the name. You know, you got to watch those patterns. That's a special kind of bug.
That's right. Bug-eyed.
Sound like a concentrated effort.
Right.
Yep, exactly. Micah 3:3, who also eat the flesh of my people and flay their skin from off them. Right? So they're taking that truth away from you. You know, I think, I forget where it's written, but that they take away the key. Oh, yeah, how Shai said it about the wicked scribes and Pharisees. That they don't suffer anybody to go in, and they themselves won't go in. They're like, nah, we not going to make it. You know what? You niggas going to die with us. Because they just evil, man. When you read about the wicked scribes and Pharisees, the Lord straight up doing miracles and they denying it. You know, here it is. All we're doing is preaching the truth, and the world is singing to the tune of what we're preaching. That in itself is a miracle. The MOTB system is being raised up. That's miraculous. And what do the other camps say? They scoff against the evil men. These men are wicked. Don't follow these certain Israelite camps. You know who they're talking about. They're talking about the real servants of the Lord, man. The Lord's will would be those men.
Yeah, I gotta say real quick too. You can only imagine how miraculous or how big of an event spiritual power will be in this time, because, you know, back then, you know, you can sort of see why, right? Because they still had exposure to some spiritual and supernatural things on the level, even if it was on the left hand side. Like back then, you had the pool, right, where the angel would dip in there. I think it was like once a year or so, and then the first person to jump in there will be healed. That was the thing. Today, that's not happening, right? But back then, that was happening, and people actually, obviously, if it wasn't real and there were no witnesses, people wouldn't be spending most of their time over there waiting, right, to jump into that pool. So there were already traces and signs of like these supernatural things going on. You had people on the left-hand side that were performing pseudo miracles, meaning they would make things happen, but they would be using, you know, left-handed means. That was something that was actually more common. Like Simon Bar-Jesus, which bewitched the people with sorcery. You also had those when Paul went to, I think it was Athens, where there was this woman that these two individuals had, and she had a demon on her, right, a familiar, but she was able to use the demon on her to predict these things so these guys could win those bets. And when the Apostle Paul rebuked that demon out of her, then they got mad. So they knew what they were doing, but they were actually, you know, benefiting off of this. So people had some exposure to some level on spirituality, on things that are out of the physical. Now, that's not even the case. Now it's really just anything out of the norm is technology-based, right? In order for somebody to do this, it's technology-based. So you need some gadget, right, to be able to do X, Y, and Z. But in this time, imagine the Lord, you know, bringing spiritual power in an era like this, where it even to talk about it sounds crazy, you know, let alone actually see and experience and go through these things. It's going to be a very big deal. You know, like the Lord turned water to wine and people were like, okay, you know, it tastes good though.
Yeah, I was going to say also Esau, he had commercialized, because you still got like witches out here and you still got people that got familiar spirits and things like that. But Esau commercialized it so much to where it's like that's not looked at as a spiritual power on the left hand side. It's just looked at as something that, you know, people go do just to go get their future read, you know, tarot card readings and shit like that. But not realizing that you're literally tapping in on the left hand side of evil spirits when you do those things, because Esau just made it a you know, he commercialized it, he dumbed it down, so now people don't even think like that anymore.
God. Yeah, that's a very, very good point. God, it's a regular thing to them. Oh, there's a botanica right there. Oh, let's go get a you know, hand read and all that, and then make it seem like it's all like a everyday thing. That's actually a very good point.
Yeah, they literally have with the horoscope readings in the newspaper every day. It's like in the bottom of the newspaper. Oh, make sure you get your daily horoscope. Like you're just telling people, yeah, make sure you do get your daily left-handed, you know, wicked evil readings.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Take your medicine.
no, I just real quick. In Isaiah, it speaks about these sorcerers, you know, doing witchcraft and all of that. And yeah, form of their technology is a form of witchcraft. And even in ancient times, the Pharisees had sorcerers who turned their canes into their staffs into snakes to try to compete with Moses when he turned his staff into snakes. So they deal with divinity. What's the word?
Divinity.
Divinity and, on the left hand side. But we also know that the Lord made sure that we weren't ignorant of Satan's devices.
Mm-hmm.
So we exposed all that.
Right.
Go ahead, bro.
Yep. Back in Micah 3:3, who also eat the flesh of my people and flay their skin from off them, and they break their bones and chop them in pieces, as for the pot and as flesh within the cauldron. Yeah, so they basically are chopping you, Jakes, up in the spirit, all right, putting you in the cauldron and eating you. And that's what you signed up for, because they're not teaching you the proper way. And what are they doing? They're fleecing you. They're making tons of money off you on top of it. Mm-hmm. Because of your ignorance. You want to support this man because you're into, basically you're making these men into idols.
Right.
You know, Jake is prone to idolatry. You know, Jake is prone to follow idols. That's why the Lord didn't really want to give us a king. It's like, well, if I give you this king, I know how y'all gonna act. Mm-hmm. You know? But that was when he set up Saul, he set up King David, which is his real true anointed king, and showed you an example of the king that he doesn't want and then the king that he does want. You see?
Yeah. Yeah. Ultimately, our Israel was meant to be a theocracy. You know, we're meant to be really ruled under by God. But that's why he chose a man after his heart, because that man would lead them to be better ruled by the Most High, rather than to lead them under you know, his own lustful desires or whatever it is that he wanted to do. Because as the scriptures say, as the way of the ruler is, so are the people, right? The judge is, so are the people. So what happened when King Solomon went astray? He led the whole nation astray, right? But I know you had something.
Yeah, just to go into that word, flay, I believe it was. Mm-hmm. The Hebrew word there is pashat, and it says, one of the definitions says to put off one's shelter. And when I think of that, I think of Psalm 91. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. That shadow is what? The protection. It's likened unto a home, a place where you can go by, what? To receive shelter. Receive what? Shelter from what? The ways of this world, the bullshit, the false philosophies.
Hey, Proverbs 18:10.
Oh.
Righteous runneth into the name of the
Lord.
Yeah,
the tower.
Tower, yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. So that's what they're doing. They're taking all that. They make you dumber so you can be more dependent. And the dumber you are, the easier it is for them to take advantage of you. And that's what Esau does. Look, in these schools, if you really think about it, it seems like the higher you go, the smarter you get. But that's not really the case. You know, you'll actually be surprised that you can ask some of these maybe like middle schoolers, right? Going, not even high school yet, just middle schoolers, ask them a question about, I don't know, what's the capital of this place? There was once upon a time when they would know, you know? But even till today, they probably have a better chance of knowing that than somebody who has a bachelor's degree out of college, you know, and they're walking around because you have a degree, but that's not really you gaining actual core knowledge. The things that they teach you look, man, I've been through the whole thing from middle school, high school, college. When you had all your literature classes and English classes, all you read about is Shakespeare and freaking novel books and write and just learn how to write. What was your take on this person? How did they manage? How did the author? It's always about the author. How did the author, you know, make you feel when you read X, Y, and Z? Why do I give a damn about that? I know how to read the book clearly, and I know how to write. But you spend all these years in these classes doing the same things with a little twist on it, writing 3-page papers in MLA format and shit. Okay, what am I really practically getting from that? You know? So when you go to these schools and they indoctrinate you, they don't really, you know, help you grow in knowledge. All right. And so what Esau does is he uses that same thing. He makes you dumber so you're easier to control. When you come out of college and you have this degree, all that tells him is you are prime time, perfect, ready to run up into this assembly line. Okay. It doesn't tell him that you are a well-educated such and such. It just tells him that this person has been groomed well enough that I can throw them in this assembly line and they know how to do it. That's why they have different majors. Okay, groom this person for business. Okay, you've been groomed well enough to jump onto the business assembly line. What about you? Oh, finance, jump over there. You, oh, jump over there. And then that's all you really know how to do. And you could you could be a business major or a finance major and then still not know how to do taxes or not know how to do these basic mathematical calculations.
Hey, that's why one of the Rockefellers, he said he doesn't want a nation of thinkers. He wants a nation of workers, right? And the best way to do it is, number one, you got, of course, you got the school system, but also the medical field, all right? Because that's what programs the mind as well, all right? So the school system pretty much is created to create workers, like you said, for the assembly line. That's all it is. And then based on your degree, all right, it shows, all right, what kind of field and capacity you could actually hold. You see, some people fall through the cracks. You got people that have hold high positions and they don't got no degree, right? All these so-called Edomites these so-called white people, Edomites that have all this power, the Warren Buffetts, the whatever, whoever that's out there, whatever, right? Most of them, they didn't even graduate college. If you listen to what they say, some of them, they write books and all that, they say, well, the knowledge that I have is not from school. So if you think school is going to get you this, then you're sadly mistaken. It's going to get you the opposite, which you're going to be in debt. So you can going back. You have to go back to work so you can pay off that debt. That's the whole point of school. You know, force you into an indoctrination program long enough where you're indoctrinated and you believe the shit we told you, and then you can go out there and you can execute so you can make our system keep on running. That's all. And then the little that you're going to gain out of it is just going to keep you to sustain, so you can keep going back every single week, every single month to keep doing the same shit in hopes that eventually you're going to break out of it. You're not going to break out of it. It doesn't work like that. The system is not built that way, right? If you want to break out of that system, you stop the school shit, go find a trade, learn how to gain a skill or two, right? And then you could live, and you could break out of something, But if you're gonna go the route of school, we've been there. You're not gonna gain nowhere. You're not getting nowhere with that. All right, and that's exactly what these devils are doing. You see, so when we come out with the truth, and we combat everything, because we learn a lot of shit, and then the truth we had to unlearn it, right? We had to actually get the better understanding of it. Like they'll teach you some shit about science at an age where your mind is not even prepared to be learning that kind of shit. And then when you come into the truth, that same science that to you seems so bugged out, now it's like it's so simple. Like, oh, that's how this works. Now you're learning how things actually work, not theories, right? None of that. It's just how things actually work. What is the truth behind this? Creation is this. What does this mean? How does it work in relation to creation? Like what? Okay, how does that's where the truth comes in. Looking up words, so now you're understanding things better, right? Going back to root, like okay, this is where it originated. You're looking for primary meanings, contrary to secondary meanings, which is what we have today, right? So you go into all these things. The truth literally refines you, right? It refines you. It refines your mind. Something you're never gonna get in the world, man. All right. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that out real quick. You got it, bro.
God, what you have?
About Jesus.
Yeah, talk to what? Back because going back to that point, right, that we were mentioning about the sorceries and stuff that they were using, and hey, just like the Zaquan said too, it's not like they cease to exist, but they've been so normalized that it doesn't even feel like what it actually is, because it's not in its raw form. As a matter of fact, when you drive a car, when you're using a phone, when you use a computer, what they've done is the whole goal is to make driving a car as simple as possible, right? If it's a push start, you put the foot on the brake, push it, and it starts. Put the key in here, twist it, and then it starts, right? You shift the gear if it's automatic, and you just shift it into drive, shift it into park, shift it into reverse. They make it so simple, but in actuality, so it makes it seem like driving a car is a simple thing. But in actuality, if you see what's going on when you actually shift the gear in here, what actually happens all the way onto the mechanical parts of the car that are moving, if everybody was to be exposed to that, they would find out that driving the car is a big ass deal. Cause like, damn, you gotta make sure the cylinders are firing off right, the pressure is right, the engine. You know how many parts there are in a car to make it move the way it does? So similarly, that's what Esau has done. He's wrapped the witchcraft under like this very easy to do, light work, playful cover to make it seem like it's not a big deal. Oh yeah, I got my license. You got young women and men nowadays. Oh yeah, I drive, I whip it, I got my license. They do these things like tarot card readings and all of that. Oh yeah, I just went and got my thing read. But if you actually knew that, hey, Right now, when you go and sit there, this person here has a demon next to them, an actual demon. You know what a demon is? Let me explain what a demon is to you, right? Okay, now you know what a demon is. They have a demon with them. You know what I'm saying? The demon is there. The demon is talking to them. I mean, they're doing all of these things in the spirit, and then they're coming out and telling you X, Y, and Z. You'd be like, oh shit, that's a bigger deal than just going and sitting down and they look at your palms and, oh yeah, she just said that. Oh, it was cute. You know, she said my this, I'm gonna have that, I'm gonna have that. You know what it took for her to be able to do that? Esau, he abstracts that, he hides it from you. So you think it's just a light thing. Did somebody have their hand up?
Yeah, real quick. Hey, when you just said that, just reminded me. Look what's going on even in the so-called entertainment industry today. It's all witchcraft. You know, prior to 2020, they used to do it. You know, every time they had the Super Bowl halftime show thing,
Yeah.
whatever. They always had some type of ritualistic shit going on, and we used to always break it down like, "Yo, they're putting this shit in your face." Now, yo, look at the Olympics. Like they just put, like they're not saying, "Oh, we're gonna subliminally." No, we just gonna put it in your face. Taylor Swift be doing satanic rituals on stage.
Yep.
They got the symbols on the floor. They got the fire doing the pentagram, all this shit. You got people wearing cloaks. I'm like, yo, what the fuck? You know, you got this guy, Lil Nas X. You know, a few years ago, you know, he got the whole what song would he Montegro or something like that? What's the name of that song that he did?
Old Town
Some
Road?
shit. No. The other one that he did, where he was dancing with the devil, running on the
I
devil.
don't even.
Oh, little
Yeah, you know, and then they bring him around kids. I was Montenegro or some shit, some Monty something, some name like that, right? And I said, well, what the fuck? You know? And when you look at it, I'm like, it's like that spirit of Baphomet, you know? And then once they start pushing that, right then and there, within that same, you know, wavelength, you had the schools pushing this agenda on the children. The whole you know, you could transgender this and do all that extra shit. They teaching the kids all that over sexualizing of the homosexualization of the children and all that. That's like, well, what's going on? That's all witchcraft, bro. You know, but they do it in an entertainment sense. You know, they take your favorite celebrity, the people that you like so much that they put in your face, and then they do all this witchcraft, and then they sing about it, they dance about it, so it's mixed in with entertainment. Entertainment is not supposed to be taken seriously. Meanwhile, they doing witchcraft in your face. They casting spells, right? And they do it in a in a broad manner. That's why it's called broadcasting. What the fuck are they casting? What are they broadcasting? They're casting spells on your stupid asses, man. You know, and it works psychologically in your mind. That's why you got all these people. You know, it's crazy. You know, every time I go to work, the spirit has it where I could tell if you're a Democrat or Republican 95% of the time by just the moment I get into your house. I know if you're a Republican, you probably most likely have an American flag up on your shit somewhere, on your car somewhere. You probably got Trump 2024, whatever. If you don't got none of that, I know you're a Democrat. And then once you get there, the type of channels they be watching, motherfuckers be like, oh, Kamala this. I'm like, look, bro, let me finish and then I'm out. You know, because what they're about to say is all, it's like, you were programmed to say this. It's unbelievable. Like, how can you sit there and say what you're saying after what we've been through over the past 4 years? You know? But again, just the point is, there's witchcraft going on, like heavy witchcraft, like on a whole nother level. That's why we always battling. The Apostle Paul said, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, right? Spiritual wickedness in high places. These spiritual wickedness in high places are being moved and shaken by this truth to the point where they're coming down from their high places and coming down to earth and say, hey, look, we got CERN. This is concerning to us. So we got CERN coming in. We need to ruffle some feathers up in here. What's going on? Yeah, y'all got these Hebrew Israelites turn the whole world upside down. We need to come in here and start figuring things out here. World Economic Forum sweating. They hide Klaus Schwab, bald ass. Now you don't see him that much, right? Every now and again, he'll come in and give a little corny ass speech and then run off again. You know, but the truth is tearing their ass up. You know, so now they gotta be desperate. Now, hey, Revelation 12 and 12. You know, that time is shortening because, like, oh shit, yo, every day, the witchcraft is working, but it's kind of wearing off. That's why they're labeling the truth misinformation. They say, oh, the Hurricane Milton, oh, there's misinformation about that. I'm like, if you don't shut your ass up, man, talking about, oh, misinformation is making our jobs dangerous. Bitch, what job are you doing? Huh? What are you really doing? That's so, like, get the fuck out of here with that shit, bro. Nobody want to hear that shit. You know? But that's the state of America right now. Oh, they're not going to help the people. So the people who are actually saying, yo, the government is against you, oh, that's misinformation. Don't listen to that. That's witchcraft. And it works. On certain people, it works. You know, but again, you gotta be you have to open your mind to all this. You have to see things for what they really are. Because Esau is putting it out in your face. All right. The man of sin is being revealed every single day. He's doing shit to show you he's the man of sin. And yet people still battle. Oh yeah, I'm just going to that Taylor Swift concert. Taylor Swift concert, really? And then there was a video I seen. I think we talked about this some time ago about how she looks just like Anton LaVey's daughter, something LaVey. I forget her name, right? But it's like almost a carbon copy. And she came out innocent back in 2009. She was doing all those little cute little songs and shit. And then now she's garnered so much of the fanatics. Now they're bringing her out to do all this influential witchcraft on people, you know. And lately, the shows that they be showing on these kids shows. Yesterday, I was in the house doing the job, and I heard on the tablet, it's like a show, like a little kid show, and he's saying, "Oh, and when I summoned up the demons, the power that was so powerful." Yo, I'm like, "Whoa, what the fuck? What are they showing these children now?" They tell them about summoning demons and how powerful the demon was, and they put the deep voice, and I'm like, they're making it seem like it's just a child show, but it's literally witchcraft in there. And the parents are nowhere. The mother was upstairs. I'm like, do you even know what your daughter is listening to and watching? And I seen the daughter, she got all kinds of different peers. I'm like, you're probably like 12, 13 years old. Look at you. You look like a degenerate to the max. This is where we're at, man. How do we get to this point? All that witchcraft is actually is real, man. It's just masked under entertainment. It's masked under fun. Okay, fun, stupid distractions. But in reality, it's actually things that's actually in the spiritual realm on the left hand side that's working heavy, heavy demonic energy, man, on these people's minds. Okay, and if you're not careful, here very soon, them demons gonna start, doing. They're gonna be doing full-time shifts. They're gonna be doing overtime shifts soon. No more part time. No more. I'm just coming in for a couple of shifts and then I'm out. No, it's gonna be full time, overtime, overdrive, baby. And we're gonna be seeing it. You're gonna see people wilding the hell out. You're gonna be like, yo, look, they got demons on them. Literally, you're gonna see it. Like, yo, they got demons on them. Their eyes gonna be bugging out. They go, yo, it's coming because they're festering the environment for these demons to come out and manifest themselves. That's what we're seeing. All the shit that's going on stages and all that, the fucking chanting on the crowds, these politicians and all that. This is all witchcraft on high level energy, man. All right, and if you're not careful, you're gonna be taken by all of that. All right, but we watching, and when it comes, we're gonna be, what I'm saying, we're gonna be doing our thing. All right, you got it, bro.
Real well, so eventually they're gonna manifest themselves.
You're right. Yeah. I think the bar.
Oh, now real quick, I don't know if you touched on it, but that CERN ceremony is wicked as hell. It's involving with the distraction of our people thinking that it's entertainment, but they just putting, like you said, witchcraft, casting a heavy spell on y'all to be distracted from the Most High, and also allowing a heavy wave of like demons to be put on y'all. And we know that they talking about dealing with the God particle, but they just trying to tap into the Lord's energy, but on the left hand side. That's the sorcery of, the ultimate technology of Satan's devices. That's
Man, I was going to say that I believe it was CERN.
Okay.
The scientists said that they heard what many tickle when it
Oh
when
yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
played. Yeah. So see, these scientists are just the modern day magi's whatever. But them hearing that, that's them knowing that they got a short time. Because why would they hear that? Why would the Lord have that play? Because we're at the time where the free reign of demons and Satan's world is about to come to an end. We know that he works on the energy of Satan, but since the truth has come out, you can't have the spirit of Yahweh Shai being put onto the earth more and more, and then also have these left-handed spirits just be able to do whatever they want. That's why even when Yahweh Shai was on the scene and that demon, when they saw when Yahweh Shai came up to him, he asked him, "What? Art thou come to destroy us before the time?" Because these demons are not going to be able to have free reign. And that's why they're about to go all out right now toward the end, because they know they're at the end. And that's why you have, like how Brother Aaron was saying, these entertainers being really told by, their handlers to put out these different types of witchcraft and these different types of demonic shows, make it more evident, make it more out there. It's not as subliminal anymore, because they got to stand with those enchantments. They got to keep pushing out that vibration, and in order to push it out stronger, they got to show more things. They got to show more of I'm not even gonna say, but certain type of acts being done on a world stage, to try to get that vibration to get heavier and heavier out into the world. But they're already lost, The truth is already out, and that's why it says that in 2 Ezra 16, the 6th chapter. The truth that has been so long without fruit has now been declared. So that's it.
God, that's right. That's right.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say even Diddy and Diddy, even he's like pretty much witchcraft, because that just grabs the attention of people to where it's like, oh, Diddy this, Diddy that, and then also I was thinking of the YouTube algorithm, because now if Diddy catches your mind, you're gonna want to what, pay attention to that, and what, you're not gonna see the videos that we put up, because the way they have the YouTube algorithm set up, if you watch certain videos, go, oh well, recommend this, recommend that, so that takes you away from watching our video, and that puts you still watching that bullshit with Diddy and all those other things that they're doing.
I mean, yeah, it's a problem if you know about Diddy, but you don't know what's going on with Israel and Iran right now.
Right.
Like, we cover that too, because it's all part of prophecy. But if you just focus on that celebrity world and American nonsense, and you don't know what's going on overseas, you're lost. And that's the irony of it all. Knowledge has been increased, but we're at an all-time high of ignorance as well. That shows you something's wrong here, because Esau is in the policy. I got a precept laying back in of what Aharon has said. Ephesians 6:10. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of the Most High, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. Right, the wiles. If a brother could get the word wiles in the Greek, but the wiles of the devil. So we have to put on the whole armor, which is the entire 100% truth, and that is a defense. The Lord said he will be our rear ward. So he's a guard in the back, from the front, from all angles, 360 coverage. Because there's things we can't even see. Certain animals, they can see basically 360. We can only see like 180 basically. But the Lord got it to where we can see we're covered on 360 through the Spirit.
The word there is methodia. It says definition: cunning arts, deceit, craft, trickery.
Cunning arts, deceit, craft, trickery. Witchcraft is tied in with deception, because here it is. They say put your left hand on the Bible, raise your right hand. They swear in to go when they go to court to testify. But here it is, in those courts, you don't represent nothing that's in the scriptures. Right. So you're a hypocrite.
You see that word? It said the word is methodia. That's where you get the word methods from. So Esau's his actual methods is cunning arts and trickery. That's how he operates. Just want to throw that in.
Yep.
Methodology, methodia. There's a method to the madness. So Esau, he has a method. He's doing certain things in a certain way. It might seem like chaos, but remember, order ab chaos. So it's order out of the chaos,
Which is a method.
That's all a method. Exactly.
Right. Real quick. Added on to that, the wiles, right? Look it up right here. It says, like the brother mentioned, methodia, but it also says what? To deceive. All right. It says to cause to pass pleasantly. It says here to divert attention pleasantly. How do they do that? Through entertainment, right? They're diverting your attention from the truth. I think Shalom mentioned that about how they're using all this stuff to make people not pay attention to what really matters. How is it that we are in the end times? You got all this end time prophecies going on, the most alarming, most high intention time in human history, but yet people are distracted by shit that don't even mean nothing. It's all manufactured BS. Storylines are just manufactured just for entertainment purposes, man. It's all on TV. It's not real life. Real life is happening, but they're not paying attention to that. They're worried about what they seen on TV. That's crazy. But again, that's all part of the wiles. It says from confusion, right? Confusion. This is all what? Confusion. All right. Going back to the point, Babylon. All right. And through that confusion, they're going to bring that a certain type of order. And with order comes what? Law, right? Law was created for order. What kind of laws is coming out? Draconian. That's what we're telling you. All right. You got it, bro.
Everybody proclaims their own virtue. They're trying to say that this is the right way. This is good. This is the light. The light is as darkness, though. So they're not straight up saying, oh, this is satanic, this is evil and wicked, and if you do it, you're going to die. No, they're saying this is how life should be.
That's a deception.
Yeah, that's a deception. It's okay for a man to be with a man. That's good. You know, you should want to go and pop somebody else's wife because that means you're the man, right? You lobster and shrimp, that's a sign of you being a top-notch nigga. But that's how they always present it, and it's always in a deceptive fashion. Biden up there, he's the righteous cause. Trump, he's the righteous cause, but they both evil and wicked as hell. And they're leading you off of a cliff. And you mad at us because we're telling you, nah, don't go off the cliff. All right, so go die then, man. What you want me to tell you? You're reading on. Oh, you got something?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, no, I just want to say the word entertainment. The etymology for entertain, it says to keep or maintain or to keep someone in a certain frame of mind. And that's what this that's what entertainment does. It keeps people docile. It keeps them asleep. It keeps them in a low vibration. And that's why when you see things like that happen in the world that are serious, like the whole wars and things like that, you also see all the time what happens, distractions from those things, especially amongst our people, because they want to keep Jake unaware and keep them in a certain frame of mind. So they bring out the Diddy allegations and all these other, folly stuff that our people would just be drawn to because they're in a low vibration, a low state of mind.
Yeah, hey, that's a very, very key point you mentioned there, because when you know what they call like binge watching, right? When there's a certain show or series or something like that, a lot of people follow it. They either become like fans or whatever, but they always follow it, and they're like it like it says, it captivates them and it keeps them in that frame of mind to where it's almost like somebody being stuck looking this way and you're trying to call them and it's like they can't break that link that they have being focused on this, because it has literally kept your mind, So that's a very good point right there that you just mentioned. That's why, and that's how they make a lot of money on these movies. They make a really good movie or a really good show. You watch episode 1, right? And this is just how it goes. You tell yourself, let me just watch one more and then I'm gonna go to sleep. And here it is at 3 a.m. You're on the 5th episode, right? Because once you watch the first one and you notice some of the things they use, like if it's a show, they'll use drama, number 1, because drama is always a eye catcher. But number 2, they'll use cliffhangers. Cliffhangers are the link that keeps you here between episode 1 and episode 2. But entertainment is in the form of more than just, TV shows and whatnot. But nonetheless, that's that whole bread and circuses, right? That when you go back to bread and circuses, that they used bread and circuses or entertainment, right? They always give you food as well. They use that to keep people distracted from the real things that are going on in the world, to keep them in this one state of mind. And that's why they keep the entertainment going on and on and on and on and on. Because once the entertainment stops, then people start to look around, what's going on. And that's the one thing they don't want to happen.
They start to notice stuff.
Right.
Start to make certain connections.
Oh, yeah, we're backing up.
Okay, read on. Ephesians 6:12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers.
So what does that tell us, right? That tells us that the way they're gonna come at us is not gonna be in the physical. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to get your ass. That's not how they're gonna come at us, because we're not wrestling right against flesh and blood. So where's the wrestling really taking place? The wrestling. It's taking place in your mind, right? Because those demons, what they do is, you can imagine that they see that pineal gland and they're going for all different types of submissions on that. What's that?
Oh, he said shalom.
Oh, that's
he
it.
said believe in Allah.
Oh, hell no. That's not it. You know what I'm saying? So they try to.
My bad. That's all good. It did sound like that. Yeah.
That's definitely not it. So them demons wrap around you in your mind. So going back in here, we're dealing with principalities in high places, and that's why the way they try to get you is they'll either try to get you through a woman or something that distracts you or something that stresses you out, anything that can clog up your mind. Because once your mind has been, if your mind is under control, your body is rendered useless, because the mind is what controls the body. You got it?
It says, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places.
Spiritual wickedness in high places. So they're going to come at us, what? Spiritually. Meaning they're going to come and try to attack us in the spirit, and they know how to get to the spirit via the flesh. Okay, they know how to trouble your spirit via your flesh. They know they can't just come directly at your spirit, so they'll try to vex your spirit by doing things to you in the flesh, stressing you out, creating environments. Because if your spirit is righteous, how do you vex a righteous spirit? Put them in a wicked environment, push more wickedness out there. Why does it say that Lot, his soul was vexed daily? Because of all the wickedness that was going on around him. So Esau knows, how do you wear out the saints who are righteous by nature? Get them. Because now what's going to happen is you're going to have some that get worn out to the point where they just stop fighting and they just join them. And that's the wicked of our people here, who just stop resisting, and now they become a part of the problem. So Esau's like, you know what? You a spiritual guy, right? Like what they did to Daniel. Oh, you like to pray. Okay, so we'll make a law that makes it legal to pray. Now let's see what you're going to do. Then we're going to throw you into the lions den. Would you like that? Wisdom of Solomon, the 2nd chapter tells you that. Oh, you a son of God? Let's prove him. You know what I'm saying? Let's test him and see how much of a son of God he really is.
It's just like with real wrestling and jiu-jitsu. Everybody has a gas tank. Eventually, you keep going. You can apply pressure to somebody, and they might look like they have the upper hand, but if you apply enough pressure and wear them out and exhaust them, everybody is a coward when they have no cardio. So you got to have a spiritual gas tank. You got to have a spiritual gas tank, and that's something to pray to the Lord for. Give me more of a spiritual gas tank that I can endure. That's why the scriptures constantly goes in on enduring. We went into James, endure the temptation. Right. That's another sign that we're not in our new covenant. Not to go back to that, but
well, you got to.
Yeah, we got to, exactly. In the spirit, hey, you got it.
Yeah. Quick precept here, just to back up what you just said. There's a book of Isaiah, chapter 40, and verse 31. It says, "But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength," right? So they can keep on battling, keep on fighting, right? That strength. "They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint." So once again, highlighting the point of cardio, like the brother said, right? Every man is a coward with no cardio. So the Lord's going to give us that spiritual endurance, right? When there's no food, your body's going to get weak. So the Lord's going to give us enough food so we can keep on fighting, keep on resisting, right? Because the hour of temptation, that's all going to be part of spiritual endurance right there. That's why the Lord says, "He that endureth till the end." That means that you're going to be faced with battle after battle on a daily basis, where it's heightened pressure, heightened tension on a daily basis. Your life is always on the line, or some Elijah type shit. Like, I got to run for my life, And the Lord said what? He's going to what? He says, "But they that wait upon the Lord," meaning those who still have that patience and faith in Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. What is he going to do? He's going to renew our strength. Oh, man, Lord. Lord, I can go, but I'm tired, Lord. Then he said, "Now, angel, all right, yeah, go give him that boost of energy." And next thing you know, you on some Samson energy. You out here wilding out. And it's like, "Oh, shit, yo, damn, I thought you was tired." Truth is like, we gaining ground on him. We gaining ground. We almost got him. Next thing you know, take off. That the technology can't see him. The radar, he's nowhere to be found. This guy's a dangerous man to society. He a terrorist. We need to find him. This man is terrorizing our troops, our technology, our AI is bugging out, malfunctioning left and right. What's going on? We're going to say that's that renewed strength from the Lord right there, baby. What's up? So that's what's coming. Those that wait upon the Lord, though, not those who you run out of patience. Things that's happening. Oh, Lord, what am I going to do? They got me. Yeah, they might get some of you. They might get some of us, but guess what? You stay the course. Believe. Hey, they got Peter, and what happened? Where it was time where he was like, "Oh, yo, he's getting guarded by what they call quaternions, 4 quaternions, right?" So you got 4 guards on each post, holding posts. Make sure he don't get out. He's causing too much problems. And an angel comes in, smack him on the side, get up, let's go, unlock the gates and everything. It's like what? The Apostle Paul, same thing. To the point where he was like, "Oh, I'm still here. Relax. Don't bug out. Hey, you're not going to lose your job all your life. Relax. I'm still here." So the Lord is going to be doing that. Like you said, Daniel, they put him in the lion's den. The king came down, running down, stressed out. "Oh, Daniel, are you okay?" He said, "Yeah, King, I'm here. I'm all right. My power has reserved me. I'm here." He's like, "Oh, shit, what? Yo, this God you serve, man, damn." Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego, they were literally put into the fire. When they say that there's a saying that says you're putting your foot to the fire, they put your foot to the fire, meaning they're testing you. They threw them in the fire, and they were still alive, rejoicing, praising the Lord, to the point where an angel, which Nebuchadnezzar said he saw the like of the Son of God. He said, "Let's see. I thought we threw 3 people in there. How are we seeing 4 in there? What's going on?" Bugged out. That's how it's going to be very soon for us, because there's no new thing under the sun. So we wait upon the Lord, right? It said, what's that? Zephaniah 3:8, where it says, "Wait ye upon me, saith the Lord." There's a reason why the waiting period is the most painful part, but the rewards that come from waiting is always the best. Is always the best. Trust and believe that. Okay? So read that again. "But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint." That's all going towards spiritual power. Okay? Whether it's an aid from an angel, or whether it's the Lord putting that spiritual power on that brother or brothers, whatever the case may be, because it's happened many times. Look at the Maccabees. That was all spiritual power. Extraordinary things that the human body and mind can't normally do. The Lord is going to put a certain spirit on us that we're going to be able to do. Okay, so that's what that's our earnest expectation. All right, that the Lord is going to give us that power. He told the disciples before he left. He said that I'm going to send that Holy Spirit, that power to be with you. Okay, and the first sign of that power was what? That being able to speak in tongues, because at that point it was necessary for the ministry. Okay, to be able to interpret, speak in different languages for the elect to wake up. Soon it's going to be we're at war. The Lord's going to give us appropriate power to be able to fend against what we're going through. Right now we have the spirit of endurance, we have the spirit of faith, we have the spirit of strength to be able to battle in the confines of the war. Okay, the spiritual war, that is, right? Battling, like we said, the wiles of the devil. What, 2 Corinthians 2:11? Be not uh what's that? Satan's devices. You know, ignorant, exactly. That's the word. Not being ignorant to Satan's devices. That's all part of the war. That's all part of the battle. Okay, but soon it's going to be physical. Isaiah 59:19, where the Lord's going to give us the appropriate armor for that battle. All right. When there's no food, we're going to have appropriate armor for that battle. It's a food of famine. I mean, there's a war of famine. The Lord's going to give you appropriate armaments for that. Oh Lord, day after our lives, the Lord's going to give us appropriate armament for that. So every single step of the way, He got us. All right, because He already told us, "I'll keep thee from the hour of temptation." So when that time comes, He gonna give us what is appropriate for us to maintain until He comes and gets us up out of here. All right, and that's the faith that we have. You got it, bro.
That's right.
Ephesians 6:13. Wherefore take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, the time of Jacob's trouble, and having done all, to stand.
Right, and the whole armor, right? Because demons, number one, are intelligent, right? And so if you're going against an opponent and he looks at you and you got armor on, why didn't David aim for Goliath's chest or his feet? Because he saw that his head was open, right? So when you're going against an enemy and he sees, okay, there's kinks in your armor, where do you think he's gonna go? He's not gonna go for your most defense part. He's gonna go for the part that he sees you lacking. So that's why the Apostle Paul says, take the whole armor, cover every aspect. Because if you don't got the shin guards, your shins are gone. If you don't got a headpiece, he's coming for your head. So you gotta have the whole entire body to where when they come around, they can't find any openings. They're like, damn, this guy's, what I'm saying, he locked down to the brim.
It mentions the shield of faith.
Right.
So Esau not gonna be able to get you with the MOTB, because that shield of faith is like, no, I'm not taking it. Because I know that my power is gonna protect me.
Right.
Lord's will, we have that same mentality in that day. See?
That's right.
That was good.
That was it. Let's get that.
That's not verse 9.
No. There you go.
Hebrews chapter 6, verse 9. But beloved, we are persuaded better things of you, and things that accompany salvation, though we thus speak. For the Most High is not unrighteous to forget your work.
Right.
And labor
Most
of
High
love.
is not unrighteous. You got to forget your what? Your work.
Your work and labor of love.
Your work and labor of love. So we're doing this out of love. This is our labor of love, right? And this is the work that we're doing to serve the Lord. And He's not unrighteous as to forget that, right? Everybody that works, if you get hired, you work, you get paid, right? There's a condition on which you go and work, even if it's for yourself, right? There's always like some condition. Well, why are you doing this? You count the cost. What is it going to take for you to do X, Y, and Z? What are you going to get out of doing X, Y, and Z, right? If people start a business, it's not because they just want to buy things and give it to people for free. They're thinking, okay, how much can I make as a profit? And then how much do I have to spend? So the work that we're doing for the Lord is for our salvation, of course. But as it says here, the Most High is not going to forget that, right? This work that we're doing. Go ahead.
For the Most High is not unrighteous to forget your work and labor of love, which ye have showed toward his name,
Toward his name. Go on.
in that ye have ministered to the saints and do minister.
There you go. So the ministering, which is the working that we're doing now, the serving, how are we ultimately serving you? We're serving you these meals, right, via the scriptures. But that work that we're doing, the Lord is watching that, and he's going to count that to our benefit. To say that, hey, you know what? You did X, Y, and Z for me, right? That's the Apostle Paul mentioned. And so when that time comes, I'm going to keep you, right? Revelation 3:10. Because thou hast kept the word of my, what's the word of my patience? Patience?
Yeah.
Word of my patience, right? I will also keep thee in the hour of temptation. See, I will, because you've done this, I'm going to do this. Because you've done this, I'm going to do this. Because you misled the people, I'm going to do this. So that's why it says every man is going to get rewarded according as his work shall be.
I was going to think about the penny.
Oh, yeah, the penny.
You do the work, so you get the penny.
There you go. You do the work, you get the penny.
Yeah, I just wanted to hand back on what you're saying as far as doing the work. The Lord commanded us that we was going to do this work, and it's over here in Matthew chapter 4, verse 19, and he said, and he saith unto them, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. So when we come out here and do this work, we also follow on the commandment of the Lord. He said, follow me, and he'll make us fishers of men. We coming out here to do a service. That work that we're doing is of the true spirit of the Most High to seal the elect. So when he was talking to Peter, and he was like, "Yo, come with me," because they were fishermen. But the metaphor that he used was he would make us fishers of men. He would make them fishers of men, and they dropped what they did and what they was doing, and in past life they started to follow the Lord. And they until this day, the prophets are still out there, the apostles are still out there fishing the men. So that's the work and that's the truth.
Oh, okay, I see. God damn it.
That's it. That's it. That's a good point. And that's why it's so important to these damn fire trucks, man. They always gotta come making noise and shit.
Okay, we on fire right now.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. That's it. I like that.
Fireman. Real fireman.
That's right. Bruce, got anything else? We're gonna wrap it up. Y'all got any last?
Yeah, I just wanted to add when Brother Shalamah was reading Hebrews, the 6th chapter, where it says, which you have shewed toward his name, and then that's the main important part, because everything we're doing right now, all of the the work that we're putting in, the endurance, right, the affliction, the persecution, all we're all doing it for the Lord's name. That's what he gave us. We don't have something to where we can physically point and say that, this is the Lord and this is why we're doing it for, but we're doing it for his name. And that's why, praising his name and exalting his name and preaching that name is so important, because with that name is tied his actual power. So he's coming to deliver us because we stood stiffly, as it says in the second chapter, for his name's sake. And it takes a great faith to believe on a power just based off of their name. I mean, of course, we have the scriptures, the word, but just based off of their name, that they will be able to deliver us from a certain destruction that we know as World War III, nuclear fire. We believe that just calling upon the name of the Lord will have us delivered from a destruction that you can't get delivered from, right? And the Lord is saying that because of that, he's not unrighteous to forget our labor of love, because nobody else in the world is so adamant about what their belief, in their God, that they're willing to, die for that. Okay, they're willing to, forsake all just to follow Yahweh B'Shem Shai, those names. And that to Heavenly Father is a precious thing, because he's all about his name being glorified, and we're the ones that's doing that, Lord willing, the most, and it'd be found worthy and acceptable in his sight. So that's it.
Done. Hey, just like Abraham, willing to sacrifice the one thing he wanted the most, right, for the Lord. So yeah. You guys got anything else? All right, cool. Hey, beautiful camp. Beautiful. Lord willing, this is edifying to the elect, the Wadi Al Basham Yal Shai, blessing us with the Holy Spirit, that Lord willing we could, edify his sheep. But anyway, in closing, we want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Hashem, God. Until next time, Shalom.
Shalom. Yahbashim Yahshua Barakatam to the elect. Shalom.
Shalom. How about you?